welcome to another government class. Today we're looking at constitutional development in Nigeria, still under the Richard's Constitution for today's class. Last class, we were able to look at two of the constitutions used in Nigeria by the British. Okay, we look at the Nigerian Council of 1914, and we as well discuss the Clifford Constitution of 1922. Because of those that are joining us today, I'm going to do a little recap of what we discussed last week before we move into the new topic, which is Richard's Constitution. Last week, we were able to look at two important topics, which include Nigerian Council of 1914, which was the first British Constitution used in Nigeria. We also look at what led to forming or having another constitution. The constitution that replaced Nigerian Council of 1914 is the Clifford Constitution of 1922. Okay? And we mentioned that there was a Congress that was held in Accra, Ghana, between 1919 and 1920, which led to the replacement of Nigerian Council of 1914. Then we now have part of their demand, which is a new constitution. So Clifford Constitution came on board to replace Nigerian Council of 1914. Now, some of the lapses of Clifford Constitution led to the introduction of a new constitution known as Richard's Constitution. So I'm going to take us back to the lapses, demerits, weakness of Clifford Constitution. Now, one of the demerits or lapses or weakness of Clifford Constitution is that the Constitution promotes sectionalism. The Constitution promotes sectionalism. Now, we can see from our last class that the North, or we say the Northern Protectorate, do not have the Governor General. Okay? Rather, they were governed through proclamation. They were governed through proclamation. They were governed through proclamation from the Governor General, okay? But the other protectorates, talking about the Southern Protectorate and Lagos, okay? They had what? Governor General. Now, because of this issue about sectionalism, we have that a particular section is more favored than the other section. Okay? And that is why Richard's Constitution afterwards replaced Clifford Constitution. Okay? Another reason why Richard's Constitution have to replace Clifford Constitution now is the issue of the disenfranchisement. The issue of what? Disenfranchisement. Okay? The condition given under the Clifford Constitution for those that will be elected into the Legislative Council is on a very high side. Okay, let me give you the breakdown of the conditions. Okay? The first is that those individuals that will be elected must earn £100 gross, must have what? Earnings of what? Gross income of £100 must be male, and another one again must be able to produce 24-month residential qualification. So this is very what? Unfair. So that's why they demanded for what? A new constitution. Another reason why Richard Constitution have to replace Clifford Constitution is that the Clifford Constitution do not make provision for the unity of Nigeria. Do not make provision for what? The unity of what? Nigeria. So that is why we have what? Richard Constitution. Now in today's class, let's focus on the new topic now, okay? Which is what? Richard's Constitution. So this constitution is Richard Constitution of 1946. This is Richard Constitution of 1946. Now, so in today's class, we'll look at things that led to the formation of what? Richard Constitution of 1946. We'll also look at the aims and objectives of this constitution. Then we'll talk about the main features of this constitution. Then we'll also discuss demerits, weakness, and achievements of Richard Constitution of 1946. So let's commence the class proper with a brief introduction of what led to what? Richard Constitution of 1946. Now, this constitution was actually proposed by a governor in Nigeria during the Second World War, Bernard Bodilon. This constitution was proposed by a governor in Nigeria during the Second World War, Bernard Bodilon, okay? Bernard Bodilon was a governor in Nigeria between 1939 to 1945. Though he retired 1944. Though he retired as a governor in what? In 1944. So between his stage as the governor in Nigeria during the Second World War, between 1939 to 1945, that was when he proposed this constitution called Richard's Constitution of 1946. He proposed that the constitution will stay for 9 years. He proposed that the constitution will stay for what? 9 years. That the constitution will serve Nigeria for a period of what? 9 years. But eventually, the constitution only lasted for 5 years. But eventually, the constitution only lasted for what? 5 years. Now, the main focus, the main motive for designing this constitution is that to promote unity of Nigeria and enhance greater Nigerian participation in their own affairs. I will say it again. The main motive, the main aim of proposing this Richard Constitution then, okay, was to what? Promote the unity of Nigeria and also enhance greater Nigeria participation in their own affairs. Okay? So don't forget, before Richard Constitution, there is what? A kind of proposal made by Bernard Bodilon. Actually, if you are asked in your question or your past question, who proposed the Constitution of 1946? The answer is Bernard Bodilon. Okay? That is the right answer. So that will take us to the next subtopic, which is the aims and objectives of Richard's Constitution of 1946. Aims and objectives of Richard's Constitution of 1946. Aims and objectives of Richard Constitution of 1946. Now, the first aim of this constitution, number one, this constitution is aimed towards promoting unity in Nigeria. To promote unity in Nigeria. That is the first one. The second one, which is very important, is to introduce regionalism in Nigeria. Now, what I meant by regionalism is that is to divide Nigeria into what regions, i.e., north, east, and west region. To introduce regionalism in Nigeria, okay? The next one, which is number 3, to promote greater Nigeria Nigerian participation in its own affairs. Okay, we're still looking at the aims and objectives of Richard Constitution of 1946. So we have number 1 to be, it is aimed towards to promote unity in Nigeria. Okay. 2, now this unity in Nigeria will fight against the sectionalism as given by Clifford Constitution. Number 2, to introduce regionalism in Nigeria. That is, divide Nigeria into what? Regions. North, East, and West region. Okay? Number 3, to promote greater Nigerian participation in its own affairs. Okay? We can also have number 4. Number 4, we can just add to maintain to have more Nigerians in the Legislative Council. To have more Nigerians in the Legislative Council. Now, if you look at what happened in Clifford Constitution. Clifford Constitution, we're going to recollect that we had 46 members in the Legislative Council. We have 46 members in the Legislative Council. And how come do we have 26? We have it as 27 and what? 19. Okay, we have it as 27, 19. These 27, they are official members Why this 19? They are described as what? Unofficial members. Now, this is where Nigeria, the black, the Africans falls. Unofficial members. And it is what? Minority. Okay? Why this one is what? Majority. So this new constitution, which is Richard Constitution, so it's aimed towards what? To have more Nigerians in the world legislative council. So we're going to look at that later to see if actually we have more Nigerians in the world legislative council or not. Okay? So those are the main aims and objectives of this world constitution. I'll go through it again. Promote unity in Nigeria, introduce regionalism in Nigeria, to promote greater Nigerian participation in its own affairs, to have more Nigerians in the Legislative Council. That will take us to another subtopic, which is main features. Main features. Main features of Richard's Constitution of 1946. Main features of Richard Constitution of 1946. Now, we want to look at the features of this constitution, Richard Constitution of 1946. We'll first look at the head of state. The head of state, underline. Now, for the head of state, in this constitution, the head of state still remains the Governor General. But I mentioned in our last class that the Governor General only acted on behalf of the Queen of England, which is the British monarch. So the head of state here is the Governor General, but he only acted on behalf of the Queen of England, okay? So head of state. The Governor General was the head of state, and he acted on behalf of the Queen of England. That is the British monarch. Now, class, are we together? So the first main feature here is what? Head of state. The Governor General was the head of state, and he acted on behalf of the Queen of England, that is the British monarch. Okay? Now, let's consider who was the Governor General here at that time. Now, don't forget, the name of the Governor General is always named after the word Constitution. Just like in Clifford Constitution, okay, the Governor General was Sir Clifford, okay? But in this case, Richard Constitution, we have the Governor General to be Sir Otto Richard. Sir Otto Richard was the Governor General, and acted in position of the head of state. So this is just about the main features under head of state. Okay, so what we want to bring out here is that the name of the Governor General in this world Constitution, Sir Arthur Richard. Okay, now the next one, which is number 2, we want to look at the Executive Council. Executive Council. Executive Council. The Executive Council. Now, in this Constitution, the Executive Council had a new name. And the new name was as a result of this particular aim and objective, which is to promote greater Nigerian participation in its own affairs. So, this name, Executive Council, it is also known as, okay, this one, I'm sorry. The Executive Council, the Governor General still remain the head of the Executive Council. The Executive Council was dominated by all Europeans. Now, this is the nature of the Executive Council. The Governor General still remained the head of the Executive Council. The Executive Council was dominated by all Europeans. That means here we don't have Africa, we don't have Nigeria as part of what? The Executive Council. Okay? Now, the next one I want to look at is the Legislative Council. The Legislative Council. Now, it's the Legislative Council I'm relating to here to promote greater Nigerian participation in its own affairs. So now, in the Legislative Council, we have its name changed to what? Central Legislative Council. Okay? It has its name changed to Central Legislative Council. It has its name changed to Central Legislative Council. And another one again, which I want to mention, but it's still part of the word, the aims and objectives of what? Richard Constitution. Probably we'll make that number 5, okay? To introduce by camera, to introduce bicameral legislature. Now, it's also part of the aim of what? Richard Constitution to what? To introduce what? Bicameral what? Legislature. So now for the Legislative Council, I'm going to give us what? The breakdown, the composition of this what? Legislative Council. It comprises of 44 members.